started.
Well, good morning, Woodside. How are you? It's good to see you again. I'm glad we're having another opportunity to chat with you. I am still Jen Howell. I am the co-executive director of Virginia Civics, the home of the Virginia We the People program, and my fellow judges.
I'm Tom Tinder, an attorney from Charleston, West Virginia.
I'm Emmanuel Caudillo, Senior Advisor with the White House Hispanic Prosperity Initiative in Washington, D.C.
And we'll have you guys introduce yourselves and your teacher before we get started.
Hi, I'm Samantha Schrader.
Good morning. My name is Bill McFarland.
Hi, I'm Audrey Spittler.
I'm Trent George. That's our teacher, Mr. Hack, like yesterday.
Great, thank you. All right, well, it's no mystery what question we're asking today. So we'll get right to it with question number 2. Quote, no society, certainly not a large and heterogeneous one, can fail in time to explode if it is deprived of the arts of compromise. No good society can be unprincipled, and no viable society can be principle-ridden, end quote. Do you agree or disagree with this opinion? What compromises were made at the Constitutional Convention of 1787? What are the benefits and costs of those compromises? How would you distinguish between someone who is unprincipled and someone who is principle-ridden?
Good morning. On May 25th, 1787, the framers of America traveled to Philadelphia in order to make edits to the Articles of Confederation. However, when they left, they had created a whole new framework for our government. This framework was based on what the founders believed were the most principled decisions. At the Constitutional Convention, the framers made multiple compromises to attempt to keep a societal balance between being unprincipled and principle-ridden. One of these was the Great Compromise, which established the way our legislative branch is set up. Additionally, there was a 3/5 compromise, which dealt with the issue of how slaves' population should be counted. They allowed each slave to be counted as 3/5 of a person to keep the amount of representation fair. Related to this, the slave tariff compromise pushed the issue of slavery back to 1808 to prevent the North and South from becoming too divided at the current time. Both of these pose morality issues, as they required the framers to decide whether or not to treat the slaves as full citizens. The Commerce Compromise established Article 2, Section 1 of the Commerce Compromise allowed the country to put taxes on imported goods. The Electoral College Compromise established Article 2, Section 1 in the presidential election process. To create all these compromises, aspects of each side's ideas had to be given up.
The benefits of the Great Compromise would be that everyone was able to try to meet in the middle and negotiate the things that they wanted. My colleagues previously stated some of the different costs. Another one of those costs would be the 3/5 compromise. The compromise meant that every 5 slaves would only count as 3 people to the population. The liberty of the people was taken away when their natural born rights were. I believe that the compromise was a betrayal against our own Declaration of Independence because the Declaration states liberty of all men, but that does not seem to apply to all of them. This also costs the trustworthiness of the U.S. if we are saying one thing, but we are doing another. This makes America look unpredictable. This has led to tensions up to today, issuing with the Black Lives Matter protest.
A principled person has their morals and keeps them in all situations. They stick with their morals and don't deviate from them. Someone who is principle-ridden has their morals, but takes them to an extreme extent. They have so many moral codes and are unwilling to waver from them, they can no longer act because they are so attached to their principles. On the other hand, a person who is unprincipled doesn't stick to their morals consistently. They're more willing to sacrifice their morals. America has consistently struggled with morality, and the sense of morality draws back to principled and unprincipled. We see this with the civil rights movement and the suffrage movement, where Americans want all voices to be heard, but are being exclusive in that right. As for the modern day, the Eighth Amendment outlaws cruel and unusual punishment, but we still have capital punishment. The two ideas cannot exist together. Our country also struggles with how much power should be given to the states, as seen in the criminalization versus legalization of cannabis. America falls in the middle area between principled and unprincipled. Our troubles come when trying to figure out which way we want to lean.
Could our nation's founders, who were anti-slavery, truly have been devout in their beliefs if they allowed the Constitution to be passed without outlawing slavery? The Constitution would not be able to be passed while allowing slavery in our country because the southern states would not agree to join the Union. Their morals could be considered sacrificed for the greater good of our country. The founders overall had a strong moral compass in our new government. They had ideas to pursue and changes to be made from the Articles of Confederation. Without morals, a republic cannot subsist any length of time. Charles Carroll. Meaning, if the founders had no morals, how could they be able to form a country with just laws and rules? It was fair that they were unprincipled in slavery because they lived it. Without it, what would our country have been? They couldn't have made slavery and the idea vanish. We needed a starting point to get to where we stand today. But the consequence will be seen in 1860 when lives of freemen and slaves are lost in the fight to negate this compromise.
All right, thank you. So is compromise possible between two parties who are principle ridden?
No, I don't think it is. Because, like we said in our essay, when you're principle ridden, you're so obsessed and so like full of these morals that you can't part from them. Which is why during the Great Compromise, they kind of had to be more on the principled side of things because they had to sacrifice a little to get this country made.
I have to disagree with what my colleague says and say that I do not believe that if you are principled, that means that you have no room to listen to another side of something, that you are still able to hear both sides of the story, that you still might be pushed more to one than the other, but I believe that you are still able to take into consideration what the other side says.
Well, I think listening to another side's point of view and actually making a decision that sacrifices some of your own morals are completely different. Because I think I can have a conversation with someone, not me specifically, but in general. You can have a conversation with someone and listen to what they're saying, but actually making a decision and changing something like our government is a completely different situation.
We will leave the two of you to work out a compromise for those two different. Let me move on to another topic. You mentioned the Electoral College, and there's a big debate going on today about should there be changes made in the Electoral College, or should we just go to a popular vote? What is your opinion on that issue and why?
I believe that some of our states should more lean towards what Maine and Nebraska has, which has the majority votes going to the majority party, but then a section of their votes going to the opposite party, because I believe that you get a little bit of both and more voices are being heard than just majority from the state goes to the one party.
Yeah, like my colleague said, currently most of the states have a winner-take-all system, meaning that the party that gets the majority in the state, all of the electoral college votes go to that one party. But in Maine and Nebraska, there's the electoral college splits depending on how their state splits. So if their state splits 60-40, then the electoral college splits 60-40. And I think this really shows the people's votes better than a winner-take-all system.
My next question is, compromise is often considered an art. Is that an apt description? Why or why not?
I do think that description is good because it definitely requires a certain amount of open-mindedness on both sides to compromise, because it requires you to listen and then sacrifice a little, and it's definitely difficult.
Do you think it's become more difficult for Americans to compromise over some of today's major political issues? And if so, why? Why do you think it's been so difficult for Americans to compromise? And is that, from our previous conversation, does that mean we've become more principled?
I do believe that it's been harder for Americans to compromise because we've started to get so rooted in our beliefs and our principles that we just can't listen to anyone else's opinions, like to the point where it's gotten a lot harder for us to compromise with others.
I'd like to agree with my colleague because I believe that nowadays our citizens are more educated and so they have stronger drives to what they believe in. So I believe it has led to a bit bigger separation.
So just
You
a
talked,
sorry.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just a super quick follow-up. I was going to say, well, what can we do about it? Do we stop educating people?
I don't believe that there is any way to stop educating people. With the media today, you can't really just stop all this education. So I believe that our voters are more educated today. It will continue to have a stronger divide.
But I think this divide can be helped resolved if we kind of, it'd be difficult, but create a culture of listening and just both sides having conversations that help see one another's sides.
Our leaders, our founders, some of them were principled and some of them were unprincipled. Select a national leader today and tell me if you think that person is principled or unprincipled and why.
I believe that President Donald Trump was principled and he said what he was going to do in office, and he took what he had said to the citizens and he did that with his.
Thank you.
So my next question goes in regards to what was mentioned about media and compromise. We know about social media. I want to actually focus on that. With Twitter and TikTok and all these other apps. Has social media, this is your opinion, just personal opinion, has social media made it harder to compromise?
I believe that it has, because on social media, there's so many different, you're getting so much information at one time, and it is not all correct. So there could be a lot of things that is like false information. So I guess you don't really know if it is true or not. So it's almost hard to believe, like it's kind of hard to believe it when you read something, because you don't know if like it kind of was just made up or if it's actually a fact.
I'd like to add on to what my colleague said, because I believe that in my own experience that social media has given me better ways to like see different sides, and I don't know what is true anymore.
I think misinformation is a really big problem, and I think it's really easy to fall into the trap of it because people like to be entertained, and I think people are entertained by crazy wild facts, and that gets attention. So that's more of you see more of these false facts because they're a bigger deal on social media because they get more likes and attention. So yeah, I think misinformation is a really big issue.
All right, you guys can take a deep breath. It's probably a relief to have this out of the way a little bit earlier in the day today, huh? You guys did a great job, and these are some really difficult concepts to think through, and sometimes you think through it one way, and it's contradictory to the way you come out when you think about it the next day, and I would say just try to think through this issue from all sides. I mean, you said in your opening, compromise is generally cannot always be a good thing, when we're thinking about things like the 3/5 compromise and that sort of thing. But just think about like when it's a good thing, when it's not a good thing, and all the factors that go into that. Also, I would have loved to have heard you talk a little bit more about what's going on now, and that's why we kept prodding you kind of with some questions in that direction, because this is a problem that keeps going. And I was really enjoying sort of where we were going there toward the end with some of the social media questions, and these are issues that clearly affect all of us now. And so it's there's some brain teasers in here for sure, just thinking through them. But I think you guys have done a really, really excellent job of thinking through them. So I applaud you for that. Hello, judges.
I would just add on to what Jen said. I thought your opening presentation was very well done. And then when we got into the questions today, the topics are, I think, even more opinionated, so to speak, than yesterday. And you'll remember we told you yesterday, there's no right or wrong answers. It's just what is your opinion? And I think today you got some softball questions that you could have hit out of the park. And I don't know whether you were hesitant, but on who's a principled or an unprincipled leader today. That's I'm sure you have opinions as to who you think our national leaders is a good national leader, or maybe who's a crazy national leader, or whatever term you want to use. And don't, again, as we talked yesterday, don't be hesitant to state what your opinion is, because because you had a nice debate yourselves about what principled and unprincipled is. So just take that knowledge that you have and apply it, as Jen said, to current events, as you did so well with your discussion about social media. Let me just conclude by saying that your teacher and you are inspirations. It's just very inspiring for us to have the opportunity to have these types of discussion with knowledgeable, well-rounded, outstanding students like yourself. As we said yesterday, this can't be a 1 day, 2 day activity. You've got to continue to stay involved and participate. And whether you're principled or whether you're unprincipled or whether you're somewhere in the middle, we need you to stay involved and participate in what's going on in your school and in your community and in your state. You're going to be great future leaders. Thank you very much, and the best of luck to you.
I'd like to commend you for an excellent presentation. There are things that you stated that made me think, and that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that when you present something, that it makes the person you're presenting to step back and think, wait a minute, that is an interesting thing. I'm going to go one of the quotes. With these compromises made at the Constitutional Convention, it was almost like sacrificing morality for the best interest of our country. And that's really something to think about, because you're right. Without some of these compromises, we don't have the United States of America. And even though some of these things are just horrible things, then even looking back, I mean, it was like, we had to compromise, it had to get it done for the sake of the country. And that's something where even that's being argued as well, with those consequences from that later occurred through the 1800s, through the Civil War, and even now today with the Civil Rights Movement and the Black Lives Matter movement. And, it's still all, there's consequences of some of that, could be looked at even more. But thank you so much for bringing that up. I also enjoyed that last question on social media. In the course of here, We the People, it's not just about knowing what happened, back in 1787, but also what these things matter to us today and the things that affect you. To hear you all saying, like, right now on social media, I don't even know what's true or what's not true. That plays a big, and how that affects compromise. I mean, that's a big thing that plays today, and it's something that it's topics that as you continue to grow and go later on to high school, to college, and so forth, are issues that you will be tackling as well. And so I'm very thankful for that this conversation, and continue to dive deep in these issues. Continue to dive deep into this. And I encourage you to do that. But once again, I say thank you so much. It was been a pleasure the past 2 days, hearing you present and hearing you share your thoughts and your opinions, and I wish you the best. Thank you.